Welcome to CISO Forum Canada, the last session of day one, but maybe the most important session of day one. Why? Well, because as leaders, I think the most important job that we have, our lasting legacy, is the ability to develop and create more leaders. And if we don't continue to grow and mature ourselves, we become the lid on the growth and maturation of those around us. So why don't we all sit back and relax, but dig into the topic of developing cyber talent from diverse fields. Join me in welcoming my esteemed guests who all share the same passion that I do for this topic. Let's start with Kush. Kush, why don't you take the opportunity to introduce yourself to the wider audience and give us some insight as to why this topic, the topic of growth, is so important to you.
Well, thank you, Daniel. My name is Kush Sharma. I am founder of a boutique cybersecurity firm that specializes in governance and digital transformation. And I am the former CISO for the city of Toronto. In terms of this topic, it's real exciting. I think our industry is moving in a very, very positive and proactive and progressive way, where we are looking not only for tech talent, but we're also looking for business talent because we are becoming a part of the business. So what drives me and motivates me is really to take the next round of leaders, which are obviously, have some tech savvy, but if not, taking business folks and folks from other areas in the organization and then bringing them on the cyber team and then training them and moving them towards becoming tomorrow's leaders.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. That's certainly where we're seeing the role go. Let's turn to Sherry Rumbolt. Same question for you, Sherry. Just introduce yourself to the wider audience and give us some idea as to why this topic is so important to you.
Hi, yes, I'm Sherry Rumbolt. I'm a senior cybersecurity strategic advisor for Shared Services Canada now, as of probably about 3 weeks ago. So before that, I actually worked for National Defense. I was a serving member in National Defense as well as a public servant for 25 years. And I worked as the vulnerability and risk manager at the government of British Columbia as well. So a little bit of experience all around, mostly in government, but I have a lot of great friends in the private sector. So I've been spending a lot of time learning from them over the years as well. So a big diverse background in IT and cybersecurity and talent. It is so important. Creating the next leaders when we all decide that we're going to retire and move on to our next life is so important. And I mean, it's our role. I think it's our role as cybersecurity professionals to make sure that we are absolutely doing everything in our power to be mentors, to be advisors, to be educators, and to also hire talent and to inspire all of these new leaders to come and work with us, because all of us know that we really do need to have some new cybersecurity professionals in our industry. We are all looking to hire professionals. We need to get them from somewhere. So bring out the librarians, bring in the in the university students and everybody that actually wants to get into cybersecurity, because I think that aptitude and attitude is one of the most important things, and we can build talent because I think that everybody has a role to play in cybersecurity.
Well said, and I couldn't agree more. A lot of the skills that we see in some of the other roles or the other fields certainly lend themselves very well to cybersecurity. So thank you for that. Last but certainly not least, Ferris, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel. So my name is Ferris Adi. I am a cybersecurity and compliance team lead in Rogers Security and Rogers Communication as well. I'm an instructor at University of Toronto. I teach cybersecurity program design. Also, I sit on the board of directors of the IC Square as academic director. So, I've been working, both in the corporate world and also in in the academia or in university to work with different professionals. We call them professionals because, they come from different streams, from different organizations. Some of them, they have, certain goals to grow in their careers in security. Some of them, they want to switch careers and come to security. So I've been working with, different people from diversity, different backgrounds, just to make it a bit fun. I mean, I was surprised that I received a call from a flight attendant that she wants to come to cybersecurity. So it seems cybersecurity becomes a very attractive field for people to come, from different, I would say, from different background, from everybody wants, to learn or explore more about cybersecurity. So I had the privilege to work with, I would say, hundreds of different, professionals from banks, from different organizations. They have, they want help. They want, I call them the talent. They are very talented, and I have, good experience to see people, first-hand experience how they were able to grow, how were, over like few years and become like assets in their companies.
Thank you for that. Let's dig into your experience a little bit. So given your experience in both the corporate and the educational environments where you've actually, you've worked with students on one side of the fence, and then on the other side, you're working with organizations that are looking to hire. Like, what have you seen in your experience on both sides?
Well, I think honestly, there's still maybe a disconnection or a gap between, the market, because, you keep reading those articles that we have a gap, on the talents of cybersecurity. Still, when you go to the market, the job description, when you look at those that asking for those talents, they are overloaded by unrealistic expectations. Sometimes, those even job description, they are not really asking for a specific task. They are just overloaded with broad expectations. Sometimes you feel they're asking for the Superman or the Superwoman because, we want every also woman, to get more and see more ladies in cybersecurity. So I still think, there is kind of a disconnection, and there is no really opportunities for the career growth or the cross training. I've been talking to many professionals in banks, big organizations. I think this is a big, they suffer that, once they, go to one job, like let's say access management or identity access management, they stay there for a few years. There is no really opportunities for them to grow. There is no opportunity for cross training. So they feel frustrated, and then they feel like stuck there, and they want to feel, they want to go out and, find more opportunities. So I think this is where we are just losing here the talent when they are getting frustrated, and we're not really trying to capitalize on their talent and, and improve their skills.
So then, and I'm going to bring Kush in here, given your experience at the city, from a cross-training point of view, how can we do a better job, or what should we be doing better? And like, what experience have you had, and what things have you tried in your career?
Yeah, so from a cross-training perspective, I think we have to look at the domains of cybersecurity and kind of flip them on their head. So we have to, in my opinion, and what we strategized and built at the city was we grouped different areas of cyber together that made sense. So for example, we built an innovative new first ever municipal service for digital trust, which included identity access management, privacy operations, data protection, and digital IDs all together. So individuals that are in privacy can move to identity, vice versa. They understand, speak very similar languages. Where we had another group that focused on diplomacy and governance. So we had folks that were, traditionally in the risk management area, cyber awareness. So that the governance models, the standards and the policies. So those folks speak the same language within the cyber organization, etc. We built these various groups, critical infrastructure, election technology, autonomous vehicles, and we put them in one group. And so the individuals can understand that domain of security fairly quickly or get ramped up, and they would have the opportunity to work on those projects within their domain. Once they establish a good foundation in those, then they could start venturing to some of the other domain, the larger groups, larger domains.
And, given rolling this out in the way in which you did, how was it received by the organization? What were the thoughts and feelings of the employees who had the ability or the freedom to move from one domain to another?
I think from a talent perspective, it was appreciated. They had more opportunities. I think from cultural or mindset perspective, it was difficult for the organization to initially understand the concept.
Okay.
So we had to educate a lot of our partners in various organizations. The end result was that it was beneficial. It
Okay.
provided the additional opportunities within a specific focus, and it keeps people engaged with multiple varying projects on a continuous basis.
It's an interesting model. Is this something, if you had the opportunity, that you would look to maybe replicate elsewhere?
Yes, I think, and it's probably a good idea. I should probably publish something for everyone in the community on the actual framework and the model, and everyone could actually benefit from that and replicate that if possible. Now, if it's a smaller organization, it may not be possible initially, right, because of the smaller team that you have. But if you're a mid-sized to large organization or a government, it is definitely possible to set something like that up.
Yeah, it seems like a very innovative idea. I know for myself, I worked at CIBC for about 10 years, but in order to get that breadth of experience similar to what you're describing, I actually moved around every 2 years to different areas of the organization. The way that you've set it up, I wouldn't have needed to do that necessarily. So I actually like that approach. I mean, Sherry, I see you nodding your head, and I know you mentioned in your opening about potentially bringing in skills from other areas or other fields into cyber. What are your thoughts and what are your experiences regarding that?
Well, I mean, I think that everybody knows right now that we're sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, because I mean, everybody that's in cybersecurity are sort of moving around. So I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I've certainly noticed this in the last 2 years, especially during COVID and much more remote work opportunities where we have, folks that otherwise might have stayed stagnant in the role that they were currently in 2019 have suddenly moved now and they're in a completely different organization or whatever because they have that flexibility of work, remote work, telework, whatever, or even a hybrid sort of model. So, we are sort of seeing trends where we're having our own internal cybersecurity folks in North America kind of moving within our own corporate lines and to different other opportunities. But, that's all great, but we are having that shift. So we still need to have some sort of continuity, and that continuity is going to come from bringing in new talent. And we have to start figuring out how to get that new talent in. So, again, we're all following, I'm sure all of us are mentors of some sort, or working with other groups, or working with universities or colleges or whatnot to help, build diverse talent. And I say diverse because, I really, really want to see some employment equity across the board. We are still not at the levels that we ought to be at in terms of percentages. And I really want to start seeing everybody sort of engaging and making it a mandate to say that we're going to try to reach certain numbers and promote that sort of, wonderful work environment in which everybody feels that they can come and contribute. So it's so important. I can't stress it enough because I still have a lot of colleagues that are females or otherwise that are looking to get into not only cybersecurity, but to get some of the top jobs. And it's still not happening yet. And, we need to go there. We really do need to go there. So that's my soapbox for that piece. But, in the long run too, like I have tons of people, like I've got folks that are in GIS or people that are in a variety of different fields that are saying, perhaps I should actually move ahead to cybersecurity because there are so many opportunities and there's so much diversity. I mean, the last time I checked, we have 52, 53 or so different types of professions within cybersecurity alone. And like for me, I've done incident response, I've been in a SOC, I've done, computer forensics and investigations, advanced analytics, threat management, risk management, you name it. But I had the privilege of being also in uniform for a lot of years, and I got posted around every 3 years. So like you, Daniel, I actually moved positions every 2 to 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely the best thing that I could have done for my career.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
I agree
you
with
see
you.
so many different aspects of things, you know. Probably should have spent a little bit more time in app dev and security DevOps. But anyway, I mean, you know, in the long run, I think that we all have, there's no way that we can know it all. We can't.
there's
It's
no way.
impossible. So,
Yeah.
you know, building diverse teams like Kush has talked about, and then also providing those opportunities to sort of get out of the mundane day to day and learn something new is so important. We still have to focus on training. We still have to focus on education. We still have to
Yeah.
focus on knowledge transfer, and mentorship is still so, so important. I can't stress it enough, because we're the ones that are actually going to leave sometime, and
Yeah.
we need to be able to leave our knowledge somewhere, because what's the point of taking it with us, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and coming back to the point you said about education and training and mentorship, I mean, Ferris, working in the educational arena that you do, and what has your experience been with, you know, some of the students that you're helping and you're coaching, and maybe a student that is studying in a particular discipline and then decides, you know, maybe cyber is for me, you know, and what have those experiences been like for you?
Well, honestly, you know, most of the people that become to my program, they are exploring, and some of
Yeah.
them they are exploring maybe sometime late in the game, because they could not have the opportunity to explore, to know exactly, you know, what's their passion. So what I can say, you know, this is what I tell my student: cybersecurity is a passionate job. If you don't have passion for cybersecurity, to learn about new skills, to develop, you know, new opportunities, then you are in the wrong, you know, profession. Cybersecurity, it's, you know, ongoing, continuously. You have to keep, you know, educating yourself with skills, because if you don't do this, you're going to become obsolete, because we are working in a very dynamic environment. Now, you know, I've been working with people, as I told you, that they have been stagnant in their position in banks there, because there is no job rotation. And I think I should underline job rotation, because this becomes a trend, that what I have seen from, you know, or a pattern, you know, from the student I've been working with. They are not giving the opportunity to learn more skills. So I think, you know, this is a waste when you have somebody sit in a company or in a bank for some years, and then nobody's like capitalizing or giving them the opportunity to have this kind of a job rotation. And then they are you know, they send them on their own, you know, to figure out, to explore and find their way, you know, to grow or get from the bottleneck that, you know, they've been for some of them for many years. So I've been working with people, they were in HR. Now, this one lady who was working in a bank, and after 2 years, she became a pen tester. I was really proud of her.
Wow.
That an HR person. She told me I could not find myself doing HR. You know, I have passionate. So because in my program, I invited, like, you know, we did like a workshop about pen testing for people to explore. And she told me, well, I like that. And she started, you know, looking for, you know, resources, looking for, you know, for more help to get her own lab at home and be a pen tester. I have also a lady working in the Ministry of Education. She came from a product team. Now she become in cybersecurity. She was able also, you know, to get to cybersecurity because everybody felt about, you know, the passionate for her. So to Sherry's point, I think it's important to capitalize on, you know, the people. They are coming from different diversity, from different background, and they are willing, you know, to learn. And here I think what they have in, you know, their skills is they have a very good soft skills. Those soft skills, you know, they are an enabler for those people to learn. They have passion to learn about, you know, cybersecurity. Even they have no problem to get into the technical part of it.
Okay, let's stick on that for a minute. I'd like to tease that out. So we're kind of talking a little bit about, you know, people who having different skills from other areas of focus moving into cybersecurity, and a lot of those skills are transferable. So is it possible that maybe we should be focusing more on almost like those non-technical skills are actually more of an asset to cybersecurity? And Kush, I'll bring you in for this. Given your experience with the city, what has your experience been with bringing in people who maybe don't have that technical background, but have some of those other skills which lend themselves perfectly well to cyber? And not only that, but rounds out an organization.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. My position for many, many years has been that we need non-cyber people joining cyber teams. And we need to really understand how to communicate better and how to actually operate and work with the business better. So what our, I guess, our initial pilot was, we brought in folks from various areas like communications, change management. We brought in folks from technology. We brought in folks from procurement. We brought in accounting folks. We brought in political science folks. So we brought in folks from HR, for example. And so these individual team members had almost no experience in cyber. And the point was to bring them in so that our team could function like a business and could educate internally within the team to the technical folks, right? How the business operates and runs, from the procurement, supply chain, and contracting, to understanding budgets and accounting, right? To understanding what the actual policies are within the organization from HR perspective, dealing with the fatigue and the the challenges that we have working 24 hours, 7 days a week, so that we had a special person to take a look at that. And then from a change management perspective, IT has been doing this for years now, and the business, has invented it. If you don't have folks that are looking at change management and going to the technology team specifically and running those change management campaigns, everything that you want to deliver for cyber, right, is not going to get to the level that you want, because you have to educate your technology partners so that they buy into your new technology, your new plan. Otherwise, it's very difficult to put it in, because they might do 40 to 50% of the work. And if they don't have that buy-in and they don't understand the benefits through a proper change management program, it's not going to happen. Or if it does happen, it might fail fairly quickly after that. So we looked at change management, and then we had communications, and political science. So we ran it, and I run my organizations like a political campaign, right? So you have to look at perception and relationship management and communication management. So are we the foremost experts in those areas? No, but there's people that specialize in that. And so if you have folks that do your communications, that interact with the business and the executives, write up your speeches, write up your communications, look at all the risk assessments to make sure it's in business language, for example. And then you have someone running a perception campaign, right? This really takes you to the next level. And you're acting like your other executives, because they have these type of teams, believe it or not, right? And they're running similar programs. So we need to, I think, completely think out of the box and just push the boundaries.
So well said. Now we're almost starting to compare and contrast kind of those technical or hard skills with those softer human skills, which I think is fascinating. So Sherry, back to you. We actually got a question come in from the audience. What advice do you have for secondary school students who are thinking of a career in cybersecurity? What skills should they be developing?
Well, I think there's like I think that there are some technical skills that are required, but it depends on what sort of field you want to go into in cybersecurity as well. So one of the key things I always say for secondary, post-secondary students is that, start to build your network and start to build your actual collaborative base with mentorship, because you're going to get a completely different aspect no matter who you talk to, and depends on what field that they're in. So from a vulnerability assessment, pen testing, auditing perspective, it's quite different than speaking with somebody that's managing or running a SOC, for instance, to somebody that's actually holding and taking care of training awareness campaigns and all this other stuff. So there's so many different diverse perspectives. So it's a lot lot about too understanding what cybersecurity is as a whole, understanding what the nuances or the what I call the professional sides of cybersecurity is, because we have audit teams that come in and they do audits, but they're not necessarily like the IT folks that are on the bench and that are sysadmins or have been in the past as well. And then we also have the softer side of cybersecurity. So, I think that it depends on your personality and what it is that there's perception of what cybersecurity is. And when I'm doing mentorship, especially for post-secondary students, I talk to them about what their interests are outside of their schooling and outside what they usually like to do in their day-to-day life, because it gives me a really good perspective of what it is that they're interested in. If there's somebody that's like into music and gaming and those kinds of things, or if they're, more into sports and whatnot. So it also gives that personality side of where they might actually fit into cybersecurity and where they're going to be interested. So, I wouldn't take somebody that's an athlete and say, you know what, you should be writing policy all day long, because they're going to be very upset with me. And so, that is, and like we have a lot of that too. Like we have a lot of people that are writers that are in cybersecurity, and I used to do a lot of that myself. And I have an IT background, and I would, I almost require an editor sometimes. So, I mean, we need that, because we're verbose in the technical side, but maybe not in the writing language skill side. So, it really depends on everything. So for the students that are out there that are interested and they're saying, maybe I'd like to participate in this, start to work with like different teams, especially in the university college level, and start building the network. So one thing that we do out here, especially for our students at university and colleges, is that we have like a little bit of a, sort of a cyber team that are all made of mentors, and we're all mentors in the field. And we encourage them to join us on LinkedIn, to build that network, to build that community. And then if I've got like a whole bunch of students that are coming to me saying, I really want to get into the field, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'd like to do, then I'll touch base with some of my expert colleagues in the field and say, Mr. Pentester, why don't you have a conversation with them? The person that's in charge of education, training, and awareness, give them a day in the life of what you do or whatnot. And I think that really helps the students along, because they get an idea about it. And unfortunately too, we don't all do like really, really sexy things all day long. There's a very large area that we have to cover, and some things that they might perceive as the cool cybersecurity stuff is not necessarily sometimes the things that some of us do every day. Like writing documentation may not be for everybody, but it has a great role to play, because it actually sets the standard for how a business actually runs on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Certainly not everything I do is sexy all day. Ferris, I mean, you're a professor, same question, secondary student coming to you. I'm thinking of a career in cyber. What skills should I be developing? Where should my focus be?
Well, honestly, now I'm talking about experience, my own experience with my two daughters now. They are at university. One of them, she's in the third year at University of Toronto. She's studying cybersecurity, computer science. The second one also, she's studying computer science at a different university. Now, both of them, they are having a problem with coding, especially with, when we talk about now the coding with Python, the language now is used now, globally, it's Python, it's very important. And I think here the problem or the disconnection that, in the school, maybe in the middle school or in secondary school, there were no exposure for them to come closely. Maybe not because, at university, you have more pressure there, but, you're under, more pressure to learn. But I think this is maybe the gap when we need to, maybe when we close the gap, to introduce more this to the secondary school or in a bit in the middle school. So people, they can get, more familiar with the coding. Because what's happening now when, with international students, especially coming from China, whatever, they are studying in the first year, those, students in China, they have already, learned about this, in their secondary school. So what I'm trying to say here is we need people at the technical side, because I feel there's some kind of imbalance between, the both side of the fence, from the cybersecurity, from the governance side, the compliance side versus the technical side. Why I'm saying that? Because people at, the attackers now, they are becoming very smart. They are using very smart ways and technology, where we need more and more people at the technical side. So to do that, it's a long-term, in my opinion, process to develop those skills. We need to encourage people to learn more about the coding, the languages like Python, like Java. So if you want to get into today to the market, to the new grads, for a good opportunity, you need to know either Python and Java. Those becomes very important. So my straight maybe a recommendation for people: try to learn about the language, try to become more familiar with them, because they are helpful. Myself, I'm trying at my age to learn more about Python, because I didn't come from a technical background. My background 10 years ago was more finance, accounting, and audit, and now I'm trying to get more and more, because I feel if you know those languages, it adds more like strength to your knowledge and skills.
Okay. And it's interesting you mentioned that. We just got another question that came in. What sort of new and maybe special, unique talent and or skills are being sought after more specifically right now? I mean, Kush, from your point of view, both working at the city and now with your own firm, like what are those today's skills that you're looking for most in a potential candidate? And also, what are those skills that you're looking, maybe 2-3 years down the road that are just developing right now? We're on the cusp.
So, I think from a new student perspective, there we see a gap and a demand for, to Sherry's point, more technical skills. So working in the SOC, threat intelligence, threat hunting. So these are the areas that are quite hot. Implementation of tools, because we are expecting that type of work to be done by more junior folks with a little bit of coaching and training. From my perspective, that is, from a technical perspective, that's where the gap is. Now in the future or near future, the coding skills combined with the technical intelligence and analysis skill sets are going to be hot. So as this AI and machine learning, robotics is kind of sweeping the industry, the hybrid of the coding skills to automate and the technical cybersecurity, the traditional, SOCs and implementation and intelligence work is where I see the intersection is going to be for students. Now there will be some students that go to MBA schools, and they'll be taking on different roles, right? They'll be taking on management roles primarily, but you still need, the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak, and you need a lot of folks doing that.
So it kind of sounds like that, having that strong technical foundation is still paramount. That, even those soft skills, those presentation, those communication, those policy writing skills, while they are important, maybe a little later on in your career as you move up the ladder, it's still really important to have that solid foundation of technical. I've worked in a SOC, I've worked in operations. I understand how all those components come together. That is still really, really important from a development point of view. Sherry, what are you seeing?
I'm not 100%. Totally in agreement with that. And the reason why, and the reason why is because, it's so hard right now. Like, I agree though with what you guys are saying is that, if we look at it from a pyramid perspective, there is some technical sort of aptitude that is required. But, how do we actually bridge that and say, we have so many different areas. So like, there are the technical folks, but then as we build diverse talent, as we go up the ladder, so to speak, into executive management and whatnot, that is where we actually see quite a shift in how our behavior competencies, if you will, change. And that is the important piece that we have to be aware of is that if we're going to be building the talent, we've got to build the talent from the ground up. So there is some technical aspects that are required, but you don't want we don't need everybody on the bench as sysadmins, like, working inside of the tool sort of sandbox all day long. Like, we have so many other areas that I know that my hardcore tech guys and gals, they're not necessarily going to be wanting to help me do a educational campaign or something like that, because they're not going to be interested as much in the public speaking aspects or the building like a training seminar or course and things. So we still need to have those, what I call personas that have a very, very good presence, forward facing presence as well. And it's really important. And that's why I think that it's so important to build diverse teams from different, I guess you could say ethnicities, kind of gender-based, everything, and also coming from different professions into our profession. The great thing about cybersecurity is that we don't have an age limit. We're not giving you an age limit. We're not saying that, if you become 50 years old, you can no longer be a cybersecurity professional. If you're a baseball player, maybe that's going to be the case. But, in our field, I think that we actually have a longevity record. So let's, build upon all of those skills. Like, I would be a little bit more hesitant to say you need to be technical all the time first and be an expert in there, because we're not necessarily going to get students or young professionals that are going to have an opportunity to work in a SOC or work, in a background, unless they do some sort of co-op programs or whatnot. So how do we actually build that and get that experience for them and give them that opportunity if we put those kind of what I call hard criteria in place?
Okay. But, and Kush, I'll bring you in for this, the architect or the administrator that is very happy sitting behind a desk and doesn't want to communicate and doesn't want to present or share their ideas or their thoughts. That's just not what they're comfortable doing. Are they at a disadvantage, number one? And are we wrong to try and push them to develop those other soft skills, which we think in our minds might help elevate them in their careers?
Yeah, so first, I don't think they're at a disadvantage. I think our industry is progressing. So if we take the example of our IT counterparts, they have a CIO function and then they have a CTO function. Okay. So they've actually done the divestiture many years ago, and we need to follow this model in our industry. And so I don't know what that would be called, but we would have the traditional CISO, which is the business person, that person that probably comes from a GRC type of background or risk assessment. That's a good communicator, or might not even be, might be someone that came from the business and knows about cyber fundamentals, but they're really the relationship management. And then there's the hardcore engineers. So we need to understand and actually help and build this out in all the organizations that we participate and work in, to have these two streams. And from my experience, we haven't really touched on the second one, which is building that stream for the security, let's call them engineers, who are perfectly happy doing tech and they love it. And we do need those people, right? You can't have everyone just be a CISO or be the business side because they wouldn't understand the tech. So we need to build that second option, and hopefully, in the industry, we wake up to how IT has done it, take a similar approach, and then create all those new opportunities so that the technical folks have a path to become an executive. Now, are they going to be a global CISO dealing with contracts and negotiations and all the good stuff from the business perspective? Maybe not, but they can be the head architects of the entire organizations. They could be the ones driving the solutions out. They could be the ones that are looking at the technology strategy and enhancing it. So I think, there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of opportunities for both type of folks that are more kind of soft skills or human skills related and business focused versus the folks that want to do technology, right? There's definitely need for that.
And I completely agree with you. I mean, to your point, the architects who are coming up that more technical stream, they don't want to deal with the contracts and they don't want to deal with kind of that side of the business. And so they're very happy not to have to deal with that stuff on a daily basis or at all. So we actually just got another question in, and I know Ferris, I'm gonna pull you into this one. From a security certification point of view, I know a lot of us, we're seeing job descriptions, for people who are newer to the industry, where they're demanding certain certifications. And I'll just pick on the CISSP as an example, but you need 5 years to get the CISSP. So how do you put it on a JD for somebody who's just coming out of school? So how do you square those two things?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wanted to comment on this basically and complete what Kush was talking about. So I think this is like, we need kind of a culture change at the companies when they craft their job description. And, for junior peoples, they were asking them to be a CSSP or even a CISM, like Certified Information Security Manager, which is from ISACA, and the other one, the CSSP from IC Square. So both of them, by the way, they require 5 years experience, managerial experience. And now you're wondering, okay, why those people they need those managerial experience if they are applying for, junior roles or, mid management roles. So to me, it does not make sense. And to Kush's point, you are not expecting everybody, they're going to be managers or CISOs, at the company. We should have more like kind of, diversity, among the workforce or the skills, in the company. So I think we should focus more on the skills, not on, on the CSSP or the CISM. But unfortunately now in the market, without those, it's very hard to get to the market because it becomes like a kind of a deal breaker. If you don't have them, then you might be, they're not going to be, consider you for the job. So I think now what I have been looking and searching more about Google, about, Amazon, they are looking for the skills more than the certifications. They care about some certain important skills, hands-on skill to do the job, rather than, focusing on having a CSSP or a CISM or any other certifications. Because when you hire people, you're going to focus, those people, they know how to do the job, they know how to perform, rather than having like kind of certifications. And in some cases, they did not even have the time to practice what they have, learned or, in university or even with those certifications.
So what I'm hearing is it's kind of that the difference between, theoretical and practical, kind of rubber meets the road skills. So, I mean, Sherry, in your background, when you're looking to hire somebody, how do you, in your own mind, deal with, somebody who may have hands-on skills, but doesn't have whatever it is that certification is that's considered that kind of foundational certification for our industry? How do you handle that?
Well, I think that they're asset skills at this point, especially when you're talking about, younger professionals that are just trying to get into cybersecurity, if you will. I mean, there's so many other types of training outside of CISP and CISM and all this other stuff. And I think that there's a place for that. But I think as you sort of climb, the professional ladder in cybersecurity, and you're actually reaching like supervisor managerial levels, then I think it's really important. Like, I mean, what we can't sort of assume that, once everybody gets to the pinnacle of the C-level suite, that they know everything. But at the same time, too, you hope that whoever is selected for those positions have a very round knowledge base from a perspective of all domains, if you will, in cybersecurity, so that they can at least understand that as well as the business side. So, I mean, there's a reason why C-level people get paid a certain amount of money, is because they probably should have some of those skills to get there, right? So we're not expecting that, I don't think. And I think it's unrealistic to expect that at the entry level, cybersecurity professional jobs. And we need to create what I call opportunities for students and co-ops and entry-level analysts to be able to come in and have an opportunity. So like to Kush's scenario and what he did at the City of Toronto, which is actually fantastic, because
Yeah.
if you take a young professional, you bring them into the corporation and you sort of shop them around each of the different sort of facets of the work type, then it gives them an opportunity to sort of see what's happening, and then they can actually focus their attention. So that's going to build on that experience and expertise that is required for some of these more professional certifications. But ISACA does this, cybersecurity fundamentals. There's still the security pluses. There's all of these other type of certifications that are still out there for those that are interested in having something to say, you know what, I don't need to have the perfect certifications right at the beginning. And I probably can't get them anyways because I need 5 years experience, but I want to show that I have an aptitude, and I want to show that I have an attitude of cybersecurity, and I want to be a part of that. So I'm going to show a little bit of, I guess you can say, ambition, and show the employers that they want to try. I have high school students that are saying to me, should I go out and get a certification? And I'm like, oh, well, go and go on to some of the learning centers and just do a few training courses if you feel like it. But I mean, I'm not expecting anybody to be shelling out hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go take a course or to challenge an exam when they're clearly, have not worked in all of the domains necessary to be able to do it. So again, I think they're not entry level, and it's unrealistic for employers to be putting that in there, especially if they're bringing them in, at a entry level analyst job, not intermediate, not advanced, and certainly not in a supervisory position. It's just unrealistic. And I think that we need to get better at our job posters and also our interview criteria, because one of the things that we all know is that different generations think differently, and we need to be kind of understanding of the practices for hiring younger professionals versus, older, more experienced, mature individuals that might be wanting to come into the company. So, when you put out a job poster, you're going to get a lot of different types of candidates. So you have to sort of look at your hiring managers, your hiring practices, and tailor that practice to your candidates as well. It's not one size that kind of fits the entire bucket when it comes to hiring.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Back to your earlier point about, not having the requisite experience in all the different domains, it almost sounds like really what we should be doing. I mean, Kush, I think the way that you implemented this was maybe the kind of the new way to do it. It's to bring people in, and very similar to what I did at CIBC, you go through a tour of duty. You do X number of months or X number of years in this domain, and you domain hop. So you get that nice breadth of experience, and you get that nice breadth of skills. I mean, based on how you did it, do you think maybe that's it? That's the blueprint moving forward. And we just need enough organizations to adopt that blueprint to actually develop kind of those cybersecurity professionals that we need.
It also, excuse me, it also gives them an opportunity when they come in to actually feel out which domain they actually feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
So they might, I want to be, doing threat intel. I like doing research, and I want to find out, I want to do cool stuff. And then they're like, I'm writing reports all day long and doing PowerPoints. Okay, well, that's not what maybe I'm going to do threat hunting. That's more exciting. Or, I want to write risk assessments, or I want to do critical infrastructure. So it gives them some sort of opportunity to understand, what fits their personality. But to my panelist point, I think we should, at least myself, I hire whether they have the certification or not. If they have a certification, whether you're a student or you're experienced, right, 10, 15 years, obviously we look at that. But if you don't have it, then we still hire. And then for me, they have to have some foundation. So a certification like the CISSP grounds them into every domain, right? From business continuity to strategy. Everything's in that whatever, 1,000 pages or something now. So I think it's important when the time is right for them to get a certification like the CISSP, there's others where they want to get a grounding for those people that want to do track 1, which is business focused. If they want to do track 2, which is technical focused, CISSP is good, but there's many different certifications that are very specific for technologies, to Cheryl's point, right? A specific product like Microsoft, right? You can't find enough people doing Azure or cloud security, for example. So you also want to not only say do certifications, but actually do vendor certification or product certifications. And then in the group of family, for example, we would, what we did was we said, okay, you're going to go get certified in Azure, Google, and AWS Cloud, because we can't find, we're not going to hire and find, you know, a special person just for Microsoft versus Amazon, right? So you come in with one of those 3. We're going to train you on the cloud security certification if you qualify. And in addition to that, we will give you, and we will pay for your training to get specialized in the 3 platforms. Now we just build bench strength, right? And now they have some options even within cloud, or with, you know, they have some options to go to either Google or, you know, or to Microsoft or to Amazon. And if the strategy changes in the company or with IT, you still have people that can do something else in a different product line. And if you take that concept to every domain of security, IDM, threat intel, whatever it is, GRC tools, then you could, you know, you have a better chance to retain people.
I wanted to add too, I mean, as leaders, we have to be very mindful, because sometimes we get these stars, like these rock stars that come in and we're like, wow, this person is amazing, and we want to keep them doing whatever it is that they're doing and they're absolutely amazing at. But, you know, at the same time too, we're doing them a disservice if we keep them sort of, you know, in this role too long, because then they become the resident expert and then we can't live without them. And then, you know, we're sort of like not giving them the opportunity as well to be able to broaden their horizons and look at their career path. So, you know, I think that we're always sort of getting into that, where, you know, and then also too, we also have the other point to what Kush just said, is that you're training and you're spending, you know, some valuable money on getting that expertise in your team, and then sometimes they might move on, but we have to be very comfortable with that. We have to allow this kind of activity to happen, because guess what, we're all the same part of a really big team here anyway in North America, and chances are those folks are going to remember the opportunity that you gave them, and they're also going to look to you as a mentor and a leader that gave them opportunities that other people may not have given them for, you know, selfish reasons. So, you know, we have to be very confident of that. And I've had fantastic people on my team that have said, I'm going to move on because of these following reasons, and it has nothing to do with you because you've been great, but we want to make sure, like, I need to do something different. I need to have another opportunity because I feel like my skills need to be improved all the time. And we have to feel very comfortable with that and embrace it, and actually congratulate them for doing that, because they're going to be the future leaders, you know, in our industry. So
yeah, no, like the biggest compliment I could ever get is, you know, growing those around me to the point where they fly. And, you know, if they fly and they pay it forward, that's the only thanks that's all the thanks I ever need. So Ferris, obviously it kind of sounds like the relationship between industry and university or colleges. Is there something that we could be doing more there or better in terms of how those two sides interact with each other, where it needs to be more of a partnership and more of a two-way dialogue?
I think this is very important, Daniel. Your question is very important. We should have, you know, very good collaboration. I believe in the triple C, which is communication, collaboration, and coordination. This is going to be happening between the industry and with universities or colleges, you know, to build the programs, because we need to now, going with the future, saying what's happening with the industry, with the technology, we should get more to specialization. We need more to train more specialized, you know, people to do, because we need specific skills, specialized skills. One of the skills, by the way, I find out that it's very rare to find people like digital forensics. It's very hard to, and I invited to my class, and it was, one of the very few in the North America specialized in digital forensics. So I think this is also an area might open maybe new doors that we need, from that perspective. So we need the programs, and we need that kind of to build that communication bridge between them. But first of all, each company, they should have a clear vision about it. Without having a good strategy from the company, have a clear framework like the one that Kush built, to understand the skill set, because they should have like a matrix, an inventory of the skills that they have, because understanding their current state, then do an assessment, understanding what's there missing from a gaps, and then have a strategy and a roadmap, and then work with the university, telling them we need those specific roles, those specific skills that we need you to help us to build for us. Then once the student, they finish their education, they go and they start the practicing, because as I mentioned before, if you just train people without giving them the opportunity to practice, then they're gonna lose them the education in a very short period of time. So this relationship is very important, but as I said, it's gonna be starting from the companies having a clear vision, having a clear roadmap, having a clear framework. Okay, what exactly they want to achieve, what are their strategy, and have behind it a very strong culture, believe in developing cybersecurity skills, believing in people, because I think maybe we are having an issue that we put all the time technology before people. We should have also put people before technology, because people, they are using the technology without having the skills to use the technology will become useless. I mean, let's face it, right? I mean, I know a lot of companies, they are very keen about investing millions of dollars in the technology, and they become very hesitant or reluctant when it comes to the people, saying, well, those people, they might leave us soon, and maybe we're going to lose, this kind of investment.
Well,
Well
I
said.
always say your
Well said.
people are your most valuable asset,
I agree.
and you need to treat them very, very well. And I mean, I can't stress enough how, building a culture of unbiased, cybersecurity professionals in which everybody feels welcome is so paramount and so important. And I think that we really all need to start thinking about that, and kind of say, yeah, there's a piece where we all need some work done, and there's certain people that we need to have bringing in, but let's also look outside of our scope and say, how can we actually bring a different mindset? How can we bring a different sort of perspective to a team and develop that team so that everybody wins?
Yeah, I agree. I just Kush, I'm going to go back to that framework, that you implemented. When you implemented that, and exactly what Sherry just spoke about, did you witness a kind of a shift in mindset or a shift in culture?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised that we took non-cyber, like they didn't know anything about cyber, right?
Yeah.
These are folks from various areas, and we put them in cyber, and they couldn't. Initially, it's like, oh, what are they going to be doing? Well, hold on. The procurement person who understands government procurement, that's been working in procurement for X amount of their life and their career, knows every in and out of how to do a procurement, how to write a contract, what to do in negotiations, right? This is extremely beneficial if you want your procurements to go out the door. From a government perspective, you're bound by a budget and you're bound by a timeline. Private sector is a little bit more flexible. If you have folks that understand taxes and accounting and budgets, well, hold on. It frees up a lot of the time from your director, VP, or CISO level, right, to focus on the task at hand, where those type of folks are actually, they know how to project those numbers and present them in a way that they're going to get accepted. So it actually helps a lot of the middle management and upper management when you have other folks from other disciplines coming in, and they give you the perspective of how the CFO would think, how the chief procurement officer would think. And once you have those, you have insider information on how to progress faster. So those lag times that a CISO would have dissipate, not 100%, but they dissipate. And so now you could start implementing a lot faster. You meet your deadlines, you're under budget or on budget. You are understanding from the business what projects are coming in 2-3 months in advance. Whereas today, you're kind of getting, you're like, oh, we're doing something tomorrow. So when you start working and building those relationships with the folks that are from those areas, then you get all this insight. And once you have those insights, you can action that. And once you action that, you can deliver better. And once you deliver better, they see the value. Once they see the value, it's a cycle. You get an increased budget, you get increased headcount. So then, it starts working. Now, does this happen right away?
Well,
Daniel?
technology.
It takes, I would say, from start to finish. Yeah, it takes 6 months to a year to come up with the concept and get it accepted, put it in place, and then the second year is when you'll see the return.
Okay. It sounds like an amazing thing that you implemented there. So that's unbelievable. That that hour absolutely flew by. So again, I'd like to certainly thank our audience coast to coast for sticking with us. And this is a very enlightening topic for myself, and I hope for all of you. And I'd certainly like to thank my panelists, not only for their thoughts and their perspectives, but also their time. And it means a lot to us. And to the rest of you out there, again, take care and stay safe and have a nice evening.
Thank you.